just as COVID was kind of really kicking off, I had a turning point in my life where I had a player I was coaching Canada's national team for Aussie Rules, and a player take his own life. And it really showed me on a different level about the pressure and the responsibility, and having kind of, 50 young men kind of looking to you to lead them and kind of show them where to go and help them grieve. And so I off the back of that, I spoke to a lot of friends and ended up writing my second book, which is called The Tough Stuff. And it kind of came from that experience of mine, but it was about the emotional toll of coaching. I'd never seen anything like that before. And so I started getting DMs from other coaches,
right?
Which was not the intent.
Yeah.
To say, can you come and work with me on some of the things that you wrote about?
So welcome to another episode of the Dare to Be Different podcast. And today I'm joined by a man that I've wanted to meet for about the last 2 years. His name is Cody Royle. He's a coach to head coaches. He's also the author of 3 books that relate to the profession of coaching and being a head coach and the responsibility of being a head coach. I know many of my clients that rave about Cody's books, and I was intrigued to find more about Cody and what he does. It's very inspirational. It's close to my heart because some of my clients are head coaches, and it's a very rewarding part of my job. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and digging into a little bit about Cody's life, the way Cody works with coaches, and more importantly, from my perspective, looking at the platform of professional sports and how head coaches have a huge responsibility to facilitate transformation and change within young people. Cody, great to finally meet you. You've come to Ireland. You've come to meet me in Galway. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome to the west of Ireland. We tried to catch up in Liverpool last time we were both there, but we just missed each other. Yeah. So how great to be in the same place at the same time.
Great. And you're here with your family, right?
Here with my family. I've got my niece's christening tomorrow. So we had a wedding and just a couple of weeks with family. So yeah, great to catch up with you as well.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So I want to get straight into it. Head coaches, professional sport, big responsibility, huge. In my experience of being a coach and looking at head coaches in teams, a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations from the young men and women that are being coached by you, and thankfully people like you exist because. It's great to see head coaches now looking for support. So head coach, tell us about head coach, you as a head coach, why you choose to work with head coaches.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this and talking about it actually just organically with other people over the last couple of days. I've just been obsessed with coaching ever since I found out about it. I played, Aussie Rules was my sport, didn't quite get drafted, and maybe weirdly in Australia ended up coaching at 22, 23 instead of playing suburban footy with my mates. And a mentor of mine gave me Rick Charlesworth's book. It was called The Coach, and it was about the field hockey team in 1996 and 2000 that won the gold medals at the Olympics. And after that, I was like, wow, there's a whole other world of thinking about sport. And just been obsessed with like how coaches get teams to do certain things. I just, the team element is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And the facilitation, but also that pressure that comes with being able to facilitate that. And then, spent 15, 20 years coaching myself. And just as COVID was kind of really kicking off, I had a turning point in my life where I had a player I was coaching Canada's national team for Aussie Rules, and a player take his own life. And it really showed me on a different level about the pressure and the responsibility, and having kind of, 50 young men kind of looking to you to lead them and kind of show them where to go and help them grieve. And
Wow.
so I off the back of that, I spoke to a lot of friends and ended up writing my second book, which is called The Tough Stuff. And it kind of came from that experience of mine, but it was about the emotional toll of coaching. I'd never seen anything like that before in the market. I couldn't find anything when I went looking for it. And so I started getting DMs from other coaches,
Right.
which was not the intent.
Yeah.
To say, can you come and work with me on some of the things that you wrote about?
Wow.
You know, and I wrote about identity and fear and the outside pressure and what that does. And everyone can say that, you know, don't listen to it, and but the pressure piles up, and so it was really why head coaches was, one, I'm passionate about it, I understand it, I've been there, but also it just happened organically. I started getting messages saying, I need your help. And so I just felt a strong pull to go and do that.
Wow. So like a dharmic request from life, maybe.
Perhaps it felt like that. You know, I'm not religious, but it felt like that kind of parting of the clouds and the ray of sunshine shining down on something and saying, go here.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about kind of why I dived headfirst into it, it felt like that there was a message there to say, go and do this.
Yeah. Okay. And tell me about your first client, your first couple of clients. How was that? How was that shaped? What kind of things did you explore?
It was pretty weird. Yeah, exploring it, and you know, you get advice from people, and it was, you know, do a 12-week, you know, go through the topics in the book and go deeper into them, or so there's a lot of fumbling around and trying to figure out what it looked like. But I think I was overthinking it.
Right.
There didn't need to be a 8-week program or a Cody Royle methodology. It needed to be a human experience that deals with what the coach is going through right now, and be responsive, rather than trying to kind of project all these different things onto people. And there was an experience early on with maybe the second or third client that I had where they were just dealing with something, and I tried to force, you know, a 1-hour discussion on self-awareness.
Okay.
And they didn't need that. They needed someone to help them with their boss or whatever it was. That was on the spot, just scrap that whole thing. Get rid of that and just be a coach and listen and respond and help. And I mean, that's just what coaching is can you help this person right now with what they're dealing with? It's
interesting that you say that, because in my own career, I've got a ton of tools that I could use, and methods and systems and models. But some of the head coaches that you and I work with are pretty capable guys, and it's really the attunement that they require. You know, we become so attuned in ourselves that we can be so attuned with them, and they feel seen and they feel heard, and we can almost, that's my experience, we can help them to tease out, you know, what it is that they need to work with. So it's interesting that you say that. What's your experience with that side of coaching?
Yeah. People think that people like you and I teach coaches things. I don't think so. You don't get to be Matt Pete or Adam O'Brien, who I work with, without being extraordinarily capable. To be one of 10 or 12 or 20 people in the world that do what you do at the highest level, you have extraordinary capability. What they're looking for is refinement, which isn't too dissimilar to elite athletes. They're not really in need of being taught new things. They're in need of being refined and things being pointed out to them, and a jolt of confidence and reminders and a third-party perspective. And if they're going off track, for someone to go, you know, to grab them by the lapels and be like, hey, come on, you know. And so, they're elite performers in their own right. They don't really need to be taught a hell of a lot. They just need a shepherd that can help them stay on track in amongst all of the things that arise, of which there is, for head coaches, there's hundreds of things that can land on your desk on a daily basis.
And you've been doing this for a number of years now. What are some of the common challenges that they face and that you help them to navigate? What are some of the common things that you're seeing in head coaches these days?
There's a number. Perhaps the biggest one that I see is the organizational dynamic has changed in sport. The size of these organizations have become so drastic in a relatively short period of time, less than one generation, where, you know, we're still in the kind of post-Fergie era where it was kind of like one head coach and one assistant coach and the CEO.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about departments full of PhDs, departments that need to communicate, that the commercial department has become more impactful. And, you know, we're talking, you know, in May, and teams from the Premier League have already flown overseas and played other games. They finished the Premier League last week. You know, so like there's a whole machine that's going. And so it's easy to get lost in that organizational dynamic, and coaches aren't educated at all on the fact that they're running a multi-billion-dollar organization now. And whilst they aren't the head of that, they are the most influential cog in that. And so that's one.
Yeah.
And then perhaps the other one is just being lost in the day-to-day of having your head down and getting this group of young men or women towards their goals, and how you lose perspective so quickly on reality and yourself. And so sometimes having someone to pull you back out and reinforce that it's actually you that makes this whole thing work, and you need to show up in your coaching and for other people. That is hard to keep at the forefront of your mind when you're just in it.
Yeah. And how much of your work is biased towards the coach's self-awareness, the coach's emotional awareness of his leadership style, awareness of who he is, what he identifies with, awareness of his future and his vision? How much of what you do is focused on that area? And the reason I'm asking that is there's not many people like me and you around it yet, but it tends to be a big part of what I do. How does that apply to your work?
It underpins everything. So I talk about there being 4 craft areas in head coaching: the organization, which I talked about; personal, which is what we're talking about now; the locker room, your culture; and the game. How do you teach the game?
Yeah, I like that.
I see the personal as underpinning all of them. And the personal being you, not just understanding human behavior, understanding your own behavior. And so even when I'm dealing with something that might be, you know, quote unquote, managing up, you know, they're trying to campaign for some money to go and buy a player or whatever it may be, and they're having to have tough conversations with their boss or the owner, it's still a personal conversation. It's about you and how you're showing up. And then right the way through to, I get coaches that send me their meetings, their in-game presentations, they're mic'd up during the game, and I get, you know, the game sent to me with their microphone on. It's the same conversation. It's how are you showing up? It's your awareness. It's, geez, you were angry here, but you responded really well. And I can hear you breathing. And so a long way of answering a pretty simple question is I think that is central, and it really stems from, again, what I wrote about in the tough stuff around the emotional toll and understanding that toll and being able to skillfully navigate through that is what leadership is. And so you've got to start there every time, regardless of whether you're teaching the game, whether you're working on the culture, whether you're having a conversation with the owner. It's all still the same central piece, which is you.
Yeah, 100%. Some good stuff in there. I really like you speaking about receiving the coach's dialogue during a game and giving him feedback on that. It's something that I've done with some of the coaches that I work with, where I'm trying to encourage them to film every single delivery that they do. Because for any coach out there that's listening to this or watching this, that is absolute gold when you can give a film or an audio of your delivery to someone that can scrutinize that and give you constructive feedback on that. For me, that's a rapid way to accelerate as a coach.
The fastest one.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I have most of the coaches still struggle with watching themselves back. But regardless of that, the fact that they're getting weekly or daily, perhaps, information about all of it too, because you can see the body language, the over a period of time, trends, words that they use, tone of voice.
For sure.
You can tell when they're tired, all of it. And it generates more conversations off the back of it, right? It's I think that's the thing is, like, traditional coach development kind of stops at that. You should have said this. You know, there's been a research study. If you use this amount, this amount of time is perfect. It's not about that. It's about the conversations that generates off the back of why were you tired? Let's have a conversation about that. Because if we can fix that, potentially you're choosing better words in that moment. So it's not about me telling you, say this word. It's about let's fix the kind of performance environment around you.
And the ironic thing is, without regular feedback on delivery from someone like me and you, how can the patterns change? It's impossible. They're just patterns that play out. So the feedback is absolutely critical.
And for their confidence too. People forget that leaders are performers, and they go through periods of underperformance, periods where they lose their confidence completely, where they feel like they don't know what they're doing.
Of course.
Right? They're performers like everyone else.
Of course.
Hugh Jackman goes through the same thing when he's on stage on Broadway. Right? And it's how do you keep them on a trajectory where they feel like they have control over their skills, as opposed to regularly kind of losing a feeling of control over particularly their best skills. And then have someone remind them what their best skills are.
For sure. It's funny, you won't mind me saying this, and you're a fan of his as well. One of my friends and clients is Matty Pete, and he rang me up the other week, and he was telling me about what he was going to say, and he was telling me about how they might receive it and what's the objective and how to strategize it. And because we've been working together for so long, I just said to him, Matty, I said, drop it all completely and make sure that before you go in the room, you're totally regulated in your nervous system. Go and find a quiet space, check in with your posture, connect with the earth, connect with the vertical, open up, strong back, soft front, breathe naturally, find your center and walk in the room. I said, don't even bother what you're going to say. And because he's brave, he did it. And magic happens because he's just so rooted in himself. He's not lost in a thought or an expectation or a fear. So that's a big piece of what I do, the self-regulation, the knowing through practice what it feels like when you're in your center and how to find your center when you're off center.
One of my favorite pieces that Maddie told me that's in Second Set of Eyes, the book that you were also in, was the routine of before walking into a room, put your hand on the doorknob, but pause and consider yourself.
Yeah.
And just taking 2 seconds, how am I walking into this room?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I haven't had people talk to me about that piece, but that's one of my favorite pieces in the whole book. But that's exactly what you're talking about. And you know, I call the state that you're talking about there coaching free.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talk about athletes playing free, and that's the ideal state for them. And it's this, semi-intuitive state. It's not a fully intuitive state. And the same state exists with coaches and performers of knowledge work as well.
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing, where you have a presence about you. You are mindful. You're being mindful. But it works together with the situation, with the circumstance, with the other people that are there. And it's this feeling that there is some freedom.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing, but also you're open to listening to your intuition.
Yeah.
And that's the ideal state to be in. It's very tough.
Well, it needs practicing, doesn't it? That's why. It's got to be trained.
Yeah, over years.
Yeah.
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 And that's the process of really coaching, because you can keep learning about coaching and different methodologies and how to teach and all of these kind of things. But ultimately, coaching is an exchange of humanity.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to be a human.
For sure. Some of my work is also with just normal blokes, businessmen and non-sporting men, and still on this theme of self-regulation. A lot of them, including me when I was younger, have triggers around the mum. Or even when I'm driving to my mum's house, I can just feel a trigger. She's gone, and I'm making up a story that she's going to be like this and this is going to happen. And again, it's an extreme example, but it relates to coaching. Instead of worrying about the story of what's going to happen and the expectation of what's going to happen, one of the things I say, I give them regulation practices. So you're driving in the car, you put your hand on your belly, you breathe into your hand, you find your center. You arrive at your mum's house, you turn the key off, you ground your feet, you breathe up and down, you soften your jaw, you open your posture, you open your hands, and you say to yourself, I can hold it all. And you're neutral. And you go in, and because of your state, physical state, emotional state, you're less triggered. It's a fact. So it's such an important part of working with coaches for me, that that self-regulation piece is huge. Cody, what are some of the key? I mean, we've not been talking about techniques, but what are some of the key things you've done with coaches, or some of the work you've done with coaches, some of the things you've said to coaches that have had the greatest impact on their life and their career?
I don't really need to overthink that. I don't think, to go back to what I said earlier, I don't think I've taught an awful lot of new things to people. I think if you were to poll the coaches, I would hope that they would say that they just see that they feel seen. And
beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean that in a human way. I don't mean that in terms of we've recorded them and that they're being seen. I think people forget very quickly about you when you become a leader like that. That's why whatever the discipline, leaders often say it's lonely. What they're talking about is that vacancy of people seeing them. Yeah,
100%. Brilliant answer. I totally align with that. And I'm glad it's so simple, and I'm glad you kept it so simple, because it is about that. And I want people who are watching this to know that it is about being seen and being valued and being heard. talk to me about spirituality and where that may fit into your work or the work with a certain client, because obviously we perceive that in many different ways. But the spirit of coaching, the spirit of a team, the trust that everything's going to be okay. I've heard you tentatively talk about spirit before. Where does it fit in what you do, and where you guide coaches?
I would say the kind of excitement that I described earlier in terms of getting into coaching and just being a part of a team in general and playing team sports my whole life. I think that's the spiritual element of it, is that it creates something in us that is, not even human. And that's why I think people can't let it go. Why people come out of retirement, why fans describe football in particular, but most ball sports, as a religious experience when they watch it. So I think that's what we're describing.
Yeah.
And then the experience of being part of a team is spiritual. Like it's communal. It's the kind of the deepest motivation, certainly, that we can find. And so, I think there are kind of religious practices within that. There's the reaffirmations that you want to be part of this group. There's, just like you said, the experience of going through it and what it generates in your body. And then there certainly is then another element of it around leading that and being able to kind of guide that energy.
Yeah.
Whether it's going well or poorly, there's a skill behind it. And then being able to kind of draw on different versions of spirituality and pull on different understandings of things like groups and group dynamics and individual and belief and belief when there's no hope and all of those different elements. They are very, deeply spiritual. And so it's funny, I've been doing a lot of, as much research as I can into the Indigenous way of life in Australia.
Yeah.
That is rooted in my father. My mother left my father when I was 2, so I was raised by a single mum. I don't know a lot about my dad, and he passed away 5 years ago. And I became a dad 2 years ago. But what he did with his life was he went and bought a teepee and he lived on the side of a riverbank near an Aboriginal elder in New South Wales. And I went to visit my grandfather at Christmas time, and he has this article that was written about my father in a local newspaper. And he's talking about, his experience and why he did that. And, he talks about not speaking to me and he regretted that. And so anyway, it's kind of kicked off this, I want to understand why he went and did that. What was it about that intrigued him so much to throw his life into that and learn that way? And also just an element of interest from me because we understand so little. We were educated in the English model and not taught about this 160,000-year-old civilization that was there. That's the oldest civilization that has nothing written down but an extraordinary amount of knowledge. But one of the key things is country and land, and that is the God. And there's just so many fascinating elements of spirituality that exists even right on your doorstep that you can go and explore and try to understand and then put in your toolkit around just interesting ideas that, can be used in a coaching sense, but also nourish you as a human being to just kind of understand different ways of perceiving the world.
Yeah. Wow, what a journey that sounds like, mate.
It's fun. Yeah. And I'm just diving into it. I don't have a destination. I don't know where it's going, but it's part of, when we were texting before and we were talking about like the parental roles and I was thinking, I actually don't know how to be a good father. I'm learning that. It was never displayed to me.
Of course.
I know how to be a good mother.
Yeah.
I understand that very well.
Yeah.
And I saw that every day. And, my mother never finished high school. She was raised in Woomera in New South Wales where they tested nuclear weapons. Both her parents died within 2 years of a nuclear weapon going off in the desert. So she was 16, dropped out of school, no parents, orphaned. Goes on to become the top salesperson at Kraft Foods in Australasia, 2 years in her career, and and raises 2 kids on her own, and all these kind of things. So I've seen that, and that is in me. But I'm on this journey now of figuring out, well, that's cool, but that's not. I need to be a good father.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm trying to learn that, and so it's part of that broader journey.
Yeah, and is your granddad still alive?
He is. Yeah.
What role has he played in your life?
Big central role. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm grateful for is that. Yeah, that is my paternal grandfather, and so he stood up.
And is it your father's father? Okay, and what about your father?
I can't really tell you anything about him.
Okay. Fascinating. And do you think I mean, it's interesting that you say you've learned how to mother, and that in itself is beautiful. I guess some of that probably comes out in the work that you do with head coaches, and that it's valued by them as well. And it's interesting that you're on this pursuit of working with head coaches, like you're practically working with fathers, aren't you? You're working with the father of the team.
Yeah.
It's sometimes, I mean, I guess it wasn't easy growing up without a father, but it sometimes really fascinates me how each experience in life shapes us towards a certain mission in life. And I know that this is a mission that you're on now, which is really, really close to your heart. I just wanted to point that out. It fascinates me.
Yeah, I don't regret it or want anything to be different.
Yeah.
I think that's wasted energy. It's more so, how do I use what's been given to me?
Yeah.
And that is, very clear and very strong within me. And so the kind of the mission or the journey to go and understand the fatherhood side of that is just out of interest, more than anything. But it never really struck me that anything was terribly different for me growing up. It just was.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And apart from your granddad, who sounds like an amazing guy, are there any other significant mentors you've had in your life that you're grateful for, like PE teachers, young coaches, that have helped you to kind of shape who you are?
Yeah, there's lots. A lot of my coaches I was close with and valued, and I went and interviewed some of them on my podcast when I was doing that a couple of years ago. And,
Great.
And it was really cool. I think we did one, my under 18s coach, I think I interviewed him when I was 36. And so it was kind of, 18 years later, and you were a grown adult, and we could have actually coached against each other
Right.
had COVID not stopped our tournament going ahead, and so that was an interesting conversation. But yeah, my under-18 coach played a big role in my life, and then even now, people that are also in our sphere that have helped me. Neil Craig has become a mentor of mine, who has offered me anything and everything that he knows. He coaches Eddie Jones and or has over the last decade, and is an iconic figure in my sport of Aussie Rules. And so even technically as a competitor entering his world, he has just said, I'll whatever you need. If you want to,
wonderful.
If you want information, if you want to figure out how, if you want introductions,
great.
And so too many to name.
Yeah.
But I have had those figures
wonderful
throughout my life, and continue to have them. And then hopefully the idea is that I can offer that back in some way as I go forward.
Okay. And one area that I'd like to touch on, because it's spoken about an awful lot, is, and I want to frame it by saying, is it possible or is it just a myth? Is this concept of work-life balance? Because you and I know that these guys coach because there's a burning desire to influence. They're good at it. There's a sacrifice required. They can move to a level of mastery through the medium of coaching, which is an amazing human pursuit and one that many of us don't get to experience. Yet sometimes it may come at the expense of intimate relationship challenges, absent parenthood, and so on and so on. But at the same time, you and I have experienced that creating little pockets of presence, whether that's with family or whether that's by the ocean to reconnect with spirit, can actually make you bloody even better at what you do. Where do you sit with this work-life balance scenario in relation to head coaches? It's a big topic, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad you went here. I'm passionate about this one. So let's start by separating the two. So we're dealing with elite performers, the top 0.001%. And so if you were asking me to recommend old mate who's just walked past the front window here, my answer would be different on work-life balance.
Yeah.
These are people that are, what you've just said, astronomically driven to do things that have never been done before.
Yeah.
And so that comes with context. These are outliers. And so they should be treated that way. And so the idea of balance, I think, goes out the window as soon as you start talking about whether it's a head coach or a concert pianist that's trying to become the first chair in the New York Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
Balance does not exist when that's your pursuit. Greater balance, however, that's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. So you add one word in there, greater balance. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about the perfect angle on the seesaw, the 90 degrees. We're talking about just greater than what it currently is. I think that's a worthy pursuit for them. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know that time and those pockets of time are there. Mm. And I think one of the great values of having a second set of eyes is that they can point those pockets out or create time for those pockets and guard space for them. Mm-hmm. Because it's often difficult when you're in it to see them or be willing to say no to something else to go to the beach and take your shoes off and just stand there.
Yeah.
And so when you can then help create that for them so they can center themselves, have a moment of presence, think, breathe, whatever it is that they need to do. But, recently there was a video posted recently that I reposted on social media for Arsene Wenger talking about he has essentially no relationship with his daughter.
Wow.
And you add that to the Sir Alex Ferguson documentary where his regret was that his wife raised the kids.
Mm.
You add that to the Sir Bobby Robson documentary where his son is on camera saying, I don't know that man.
Mm.
And you just there's just warning signs everywhere about just the obsessive nature.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible to have both of those things. In fact,
I agree.
They facilitate each other.
I agree.
And this idea that being with your kids is time away from coaching is fucking nonsense.
Mm.
It is coaching, and it's learning to be human, and it's a great player development thing for your players to see you be a parent, and for you to leave them and say, I'm going to pick my kids up from school because they're 8 and they deserve to have their dad come and pick them up from school.
Yeah.
And if you can't deal with that as a professional athlete, to know that I'm not watching film or doing this for you, you've got to grow up as well.
Yeah.
And so, I see those two things as fitting together. They also happen to feed into that idea of providing opportunities for greater balance.
Yeah. And providing opportunities for coaching. If you can navigate the communication within your family with wife, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and 3 kids, what better laboratory for being a coach is there right there?
Yeah.
Now, there are some people on LinkedIn that we've seen, I'm using the word LinkedIn, who would say, well, they're on this planet to coach. It's their mission. It's their dharma. It's their path. They've got to make that sacrifice. They're not here to be present with the father. And I call that fucking absolute bullshit. Because I agree with you. There can be balance. You can spend time with your family. You can be present with your kids and wife. But the critical piece for me, and it's another part of my work, and I guess it's a part of your work, is being incredibly organised around that, so you can fit it in, so you know when you need to be present, even if it's just 30 minutes with the kids. You know when you need to switch your phone off. You know when you're on task. You know when you've got to say no to your family. You know when you can say yes briefly to your family. Are there any clients you've worked with who do that particular well, who view everything as a whole instead of putting work in a box and family in a box and friends in a box? Like any of your clients that have done it really well or better than others?
Yeah. I think, I worked with Sandy Brondello for a couple of years, who was a WNBA coach. Her husband was her assistant coach, or is her assistant coach.
Right.
And their kids are just around. They live in Phoenix, but they coach in New York.
Uh-huh.
And the kids are just there. They're at training.
Yeah.
And they go home and go to school, and parents aren't there. But it's just, they've integrated their family into what it is they're doing.
Smart.
Yeah. And, it helps that both of them are there at the same time, coaching the same team.
Yeah.
But that also means that there's no one really around to watch the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But you watch them and they're out shooting with the players, and the players are shooting with them, and
they're being taken care of by the tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was marvelous to see. And again, I've been really fortunate to spend time with their family and be a part of that. So yeah, that's an example that they've set up. But Sandy's also been very clear for a long time that she's a mother first before being a coach.
Yeah.
And this is one of the, if you're making a list of basketball coaches in the world, she's in the top 10.
Wow.
And, and so that's a big statement. And it's a big statement towards that idea of integration, helping to facilitate that greater balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, to go back to the point is, it is around being really organized. It's a great example of organizing around making sure that.
Yeah, around your big rocks.
Yeah. And it can be done. The unfortunate thing is it's not taught. It's not, and so a lot of coaches are having to learn how to do that, or they aren't parents themselves yet. And so they can sink themselves into their work a little bit more. Yeah. And they're about to have to learn how to make it all work.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think anyone's, I don't think a lot are great at it yet.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, what we're trying to get towards.
The key is in the organisation of it, and Matt is quite good at it. He's got his challenges like everybody else. So his regulation is yoga. His drive home from work, the yoga centre is on the way to the house. His other regulator is walking with the dog. There's a beautiful woodland behind where he lives. Occasionally his kids will be in the training environment. And because a big driver for him is community, he doesn't mind going to watch his kids play at the weekend because he knows that he's in the community. So he's somehow managed to bring meaning and link the other big rocks of his life, wife, kids, recovery, rest, nature, work as a head coach together. But it does require a lot of organisation, and the psyche has to be able to link doing something outside of work with a benefit to work.
A great place to start with that is, and something that I do, is just map out the season, because you get that schedule months in advance. And we jump into how are we going to periodize the season for the players. I do that for the coach.
For sure.
Long turnarounds, short turnarounds, travel, all of it. And it's all mapped out in advance around where there might be a day or half a day, or, the team's in Queensland and there's a day off afterwards. Why don't you fly the missus up and stay and go to the beach, and, you have your day there. And that's all pre-planned and can be. But to your point, it's the organisation and then the commitment to that.
Yeah.
But the time is there. Don't tell me the time's not there.
Yeah, 100%. And the last topic that I want to dive into is, there's a lot out there at the moment around mental health, especially men's mental health, and ending the stereotypes of traditional masculinity. A lot of the traditional stereotypes of masculinity, some people would say toxic masculinity, have been, in my experience, part of growing up in a team sport. You've got the light and the dark. Growing up in a team sport for me was incredibly amazing. Sense of belonging, good enough, expression, creating art, really. Feeling of real belonging. And on the flip side, there was dark, doing things that you wouldn't normally do to fit in, objectifying women, pursuing women as sexual conquests, the alcohol, the porn, and everything that's kind of also breeded within a male team sport setting. And it doesn't always help us later on in life, kind of going through a culture like that. And a lot of men struggle with the mental health. They struggle in relationship. They get triggered in relationship. We've been taught not to speak up. We've been taught to pretend everything's okay, the mask of invincibility. And it's great to see, in my world anyway, not the external world outside there, but in my world, men are stepping up and speaking up and wanting to be different and wanting to do the work. And I can't believe it. I love this. Because you probably know the stats, because a huge percentage of people take part in sport in the world, and a huge percentage takes part in team sport. For me, I'm passionate about the responsibility that coaches, head coaches, any coach has within a team sport environment, because for sure it is a platform to facilitate transformation and perhaps reduce the amount of suicides, perhaps reduce the amount of male domestic violence that is still happening. But occasionally, and it pisses me off because it was me as a teenager in my 20s, occasionally I'll still see in some rugby organisations that nothing's changed. That the games, the initiation, the presentations where guys are openly disrespecting women and talking about conquests at the weekend and laughing about it and joking about it. And sometimes I feel like standing up and looking at the coaching staff and saying, have you got daughters? Have you got a daughter? I haven't yet. And at some point I'm going to do a podcast with ex-players to really go into the light and the dark of rugby. Mm-hmm. But there's also a quote, and it's my favourite leadership quote of all time. I don't know who said the quote, but they cannot become what they cannot see. So for me, doing our own inner work, peeling back the layers, dealing with our trauma, if our trauma inhibits us in any way, learning how we show up, learning how we communicate, learning to be more present, pointing the gaze this way over and over and over again, which is what some of my clients do, which I love about them, is critically important. So that was I've spoke for a long time there, but where does this fit into your work? I know you're a devoted father yourself.
Yeah, like I said at the start, I think about the personal craft as underpinning all of it. Mm. And that is the training ground for coaches to give those life skills to their players, to be what they can see. Mm. And that's why it underpins all of them, is because it's an embodiment of what you're talking about. Yeah. And, are we going to stop 18 to 30-year-old men and women, by the way?
Yes.
If you've been inside a women's locker room, it is equally as striking.
Yeah.
Are we going to stop young adults, adolescents from being silly? No. And I don't think we should be kind of the old people going, you should, because that's a period in life where you are probably guided that way by your body for a particular reason. However, we can certainly give better examples of what it can look like for those who want to take that messaging. And but it takes practice and control and example. And I've already spoken, since we've been talking about, the male suicide has visited me on a number of occasions, and something that I'm passionate about trying to reduce as well. It's devastating.
Yeah.
And it's happened in my family and it's happened in my coaching. And so I've seen it on a number of different fronts in different roles within having to deal with the fallout of it. And it's one of the most devastating things that I can think of. And the best way that I can find to try to deal with that is to embody the opposite, which is to talk about things. And, it can be difficult, but it can also be so easy, because you can also say to people or guide people through like an imagery of, when you have something difficult to say and you just say it to your boss that you want a day off, or that you're going to a concert, and then you just ask them and you've built this up in your body, but then you just ask them and they just look at you and go, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you get that, that is just a really simple, and it's not mental health, right? I understand that. But people understand that example.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you talk more and let those things out? Like, think about what it can do for your body and your physiology and your mentality.
Yeah.
If you have something much bigger than that to talk about, it would be beneficial to talk it out. And then, again, then we have to layer the skills on, particularly for men, of what is that opening sentence for them to say, I need your help.
Yeah.
Because right now we're still, despite all the awareness, we're still stuck in the words can't come out of men's, in particular, mouths.
Yeah.
So we have to find a way to give them an opening sentence to say, mate, I need you. Yeah. And I'm not having the crack.
Yeah.
I'm in a bit of strife here.
Yeah. Yeah. I find a lot of my work actually is around that piece. Well, I've got this conversation, I don't know what to say. I'm worried it's going to go that way. And so, I've got to speak to my boss. A high percentage of my calls with clients, leaders, managers, coaches is actually around that. I've got this meeting coming up. How do I show up? Is it part of your work? Is it a big piece that you deal with?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a number of different forums. Yeah. Professional forum, personal forum. Even with parents and, all sorts of different things, like how to show up in conversations that you're anticipating will go a particular way. Yeah. But really you're projecting something that's very unlikely to happen.
Of course. So, Cody, what's next for you, mate?
There's nothing next. This is what's next. So it's not that there's nothing exciting, but I wrote Second Set of Eyes, which was my book about why coaches should have a coach. In November, it came out. And I wanted to get that out so that I could just sink myself into the work.
How has it been received?
It's generating a lot of conversations.
Great.
Which was its intent.
Wonderful.
When you write a book like that, it's not a popular book. It's not going to be made into a movie or anything like that. It's not Moneyball or something. It's a campaign to open people's awareness and then show how prevalent it is, despite the fact that people seem to think that it's not prevalent.
Yeah.
And how many of the truly top performers in their field have been engaged in this for years. Pep Guardiola before I even took the Barcelona job, I had a coach.
Wow.
So, his thing was, I need someone to help me navigate Barcelona and the particular politics of that. So you're talking about the top coach in the world's biggest sport.
Yeah.
Is looking at themselves that way. And
amazing.
So the point of the book was to point things out like that, Matthew Pete, with yourself. And I give examples of my coaching. And then really I want that to generate more conversations in more organizations about why have we overlooked this?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's doing that.
Good man.
But the reason I wanted to get that book out in November was to just head down for 10 years.
Yeah.
And kind of shut the hell up a little bit and just go and do the work. And so that's what's next.
Great. And if there's a head coach or a leader of a team listening or watching this podcast and they've got two voices in their head, fuck, nobody's giving me feedback. I'm lonely. I get frustrated. I can't see my own video and nobody's reflecting anything back at me. Maybe I need a coach or a mentor to work with me. And there's another voice saying, I don't need that shit. I'm indestructible. I don't want to admit that I need help. What would you say to that head coach?
The one that feels indestructible?
The one that's got those two voices in his head?
Well, if you're the one that feels indestructible and you don't need help, I would say that's fine. But I can't wait to coach against you.
Nice.
Yeah. Because one of your competitors is going to contact me and we're going to coach against you.
Yeah.
It's and that's what it's about is, you and I have talked about some pretty deep topics, but this is about performance, man. I'm a competitor. I'm interested in working with people that want to do things that have never been done before.
Yeah.
And so it's not about whimsical things. It's about performance at the highest level.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you can help someone a highly skilled, like we talked about earlier, already highly skilled performer get even better, that's who you're competing against.
Of course.
And so you can take on that challenge on your own if you want.
Yeah.
But remember, you're going to be up against a multitude of coaches working together.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a competitive landscape. And so, you don't have to believe in what you and I are selling, but it's going to get really tough for you in the next 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, mate. It feels good to slowly put the lid on it here. I've enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to part 2. Is there anything else you want to share before we go for some breakfast?
No. Thanks for having me here. Like I said, it's great to be able to get together in the west of Ireland in beautiful Galway. It's a sunny day, and hopefully we brought some sunshine into people's lives.
Yeah.
I mean, if people want to get in touch with me, codyroyle.com. I'm very easy to find with my name. There aren't too many Cody Royles floating around.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any questions, again, you can email me directly through the website, and I'm happy to talk about anything that we've talked about today.
Yeah. And the name of your books that you've written?
The first one was called Where Others Won't. The second one is The Tough Stuff, which is the one that kicked us off here. It was about the emotional toll of coaching. And then Second Set of Eyes is the most recent one, which is, all this work. And you're featured in that.
Yeah.
And so 3 books, they're all on Amazon.
Great. So thanks, Cody. Looking forward to having some breakfast with you. Yep. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Dare to Be Different podcast. If you're a head coach or a leader of teams, we hope you'll consider some of the topics. Maybe you're a wife of a male head coach. Maybe you're a husband of a female coach, and you care about your spouse, and you'd like to prompt them towards this podcast. See you on the next episode.